Nice to meet you again. It's a pleasure to be here with the comparative agility and with the guys, the people that are participating right now in our live meeting. But if you are watching it in a recorded session, nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. And I will start with the content. Yes, I think that you are seeing. I will start with the content about evolutionary leadership. What I prepare to bring to you here today. Uh, the first part that will present the foundations of this new self-assessment tool that will be running at the comparative agility platform next week. But what I would like to bring to you are some insights and knowledge that I think that you don't know about agility, about uh, leadership. It's very difficult to say that, but I will try to show you that it's true. So the second part of this presentation is the regions of the model. I hope you enjoy it. Okay. Ambra has already presented me, but what I really like, what I love to say is that co-author of the Agile extension to the Business Analysis Board of Knowledge. I used to work with business analysis very hard here in Brazil. I'm talking to you from the south of Brazil, Porto Alegre. And at that time, I worked with business analysis. And in the beginning of 2000, I used to teach product owners. I started with Agile Business Analysis. And by that time, I joined the group that started developing the Agile extension to the Business Analysis Board of Knowledge from IIBA, the International Institute of Business Analysis, with the collaboration with Agile Alliance. And it was a great job, a great project that is published. And after that, what I've been working on since 2018, you can see 2019 here is that the first publication, but 2018 when we were helping a big company here in Brazil, a retail company, to do the digital transformation. And I started applying some business agility concepts on the way they're doing management, leadership, and discovery and delivering business value to all stakeholders. That was the time that I started talking about agile business owners, because we found that the main bottleneck in that situation, in that organization, was not the agile teams, but the top management, the the velocity to make decisions, how they used to present their problems, not only talking about solutions, but talking about business problems. In fact, business problems. So after that, we continued systematizing and developing the Agile business owner role. And I got this year the name of last year, the framework for Agile Business Ownership, and the book Evolutionary Leadership that we have, the self-assessment tool. Okay, my first question, why another self-assessment tool for leadership? I got this self-assessment by filtering leadership at the comparative agility platform. And you can say another one. Why? Okay, I will try to show you that this concept of evolutionary leaders is not only to talk generically about leadership, how we used to listen or read about in the context of agility. For example, servant leadership. We have to be a democratic leader or something like this. I will not talk about this. I will talk about what we learned running a leadership lab when we were developing the business acceleration program in our company, in the companies that we used to run consultancy and training and mentoring, okay? And our definition about evolutionary leaderships is that evolutionary leaders possess a unique blend of visionary, pragmatic, and critical thinking traits inspired by the Disney model. If you don't know the creative process of Walt Disney that was modeled by Robert Dilts in the 80s or 90s, probably 90s, in 90s, it's very interesting because he found that Disney used to work with three different roles, mindset. The first one is the dreamer, that is a visionary, okay, a visionary leader. The second one, after the dreamer, is the realist that we call pragmatic. The pragmatic leader is the realist. So we understand where we want to go, but it's time to make it real, to make it happen. So we have to enable our dreams. We have to understand how to solve technical problems, financial problems. So that's the realist. And the third one, the last one, is the criticist that practices a critical thinking, has a critical mindset. So can we imagine only one guy, only one leader with these three kinds of leadership? Disney used to work with that. And when we started talking about strategy with business leaders, specifically agile business owners or business owners, after that, agile business owners, we started talking about vision, business vision. When we started to talk about portfolio and lean portfolio management, we understand that we are talking about the pragmatic leader. And when we started to talking about agile governance, corporate governance, that's the critical. That's the point that we understood. We needed to join these three roles in only one leader and use this, enabling them to act as catalysts, these leaders, for organizational transformation. So evolutionary leaders are catalysts for organizational transformation. They are fluent in navigating their business contexts and exercise meaningful influence to drive evolution and adaptability. That's the point. Evolutionary organizations, evolutionary management model. That's an example of an evolutionary management model that is a rereading, I can say. I don't want to say a reframing the framework for business agility, but it's a rereading of the framework for business agility from Agile Business Consortium. The integrated management system of the ABO Academy, in this case, the Agile Business Ownership, for business acceleration programs. It ensures organizational evolution through a continuous process of discovering and delivering business value to all stakeholders based on the fundamentals of business agility. What is the second point that we found during these studies and practices experiments? That we need to shift our perspective focused only on customer. It's very interesting because people used to ask me, Parzianello, people are talking about customer centricity, customer at the center of our strategy. And you are saying that it's not only the customer. And I can tell you, the new approach of corporate governance are talking about all stakeholders. And the customer is our main stakeholder, but not the only one. So it's time to understand that business agility is about business, not only about product. So if you keep saying the speech of agile at the team level and product development for business agility, for me, it's wrong. Okay, so what's the model of business agility? Business agility Institute? No, the Agile Business Consortium, the framework for agile, the framework for business agility brought to us governance, strategy, portfolio, execution, operations, change, business value, and the whole ecosystem. What is that? We understand that the corporate governance is the owner of the strategy, responsible to direct the organization to the future and understand how we are operating right now in front of our results, performance. So when we say that the governance is the owner of the strategy, we are talking about the real business owners, the investors, the entrepreneurs, top management. They are the business owners. And we want to understand that. It's very interesting. 22 years after the Agile Manifesto for software development, manifesto for manifesto for Agile product software development, isn't it? I'm sorry. Not because I don't know the manifesto. I work with Agile for 22 years. Is the language my problem here? But let's continue. So what happened here is that I'm sorry. Okay, I was talking about the governance that direct the strategy. They are real business owners, and I want to say what I wanted to say is that it's time to think ahead, product owners and product managers. It's time to be thinking about the business owners, how they work, how they think, how they operate this strategic management, this business value discovery cycle. It's very important to understand. The second point here is that people understand that, okay, I have my OKRs and I have my strategy defined in terms of objectives and key results as our desired state, future state, so we can measure it. But it's not only about it. What we have to understand is that our direction, the objectives that direct the organization to the future should be structured in a strategy design that enable business acceleration, enable business agility. That's the main gap that I've seen from the strategy deliberated by top management to the execution by middle management and operational level. At this side of execution, we talk about ambidextrous management because we have seen that people are not structuring their strategy in terms of sustainability, growing, innovation, and transformation. So that's an ambidextrous management system that is working for run the business and change a business at the same time. So we need to understand that our portfolio, strategy portfolio, should have initiatives, programs, strategic programs in terms of how we sustain the business, grow, innovate, and transform, and how we equilibrate, balance the efforts and the results from these initiatives. Is that the way that we can get to deliver the business value to the ecosystems? So what happened here? Strategic Management Committee, the first point that we implement in our customers, in our organizations that we used to work for. And it is composed by business owners, the strategy, portfolio, and OKRs. This side of ambidextrous management, we are talking about how can we implement an evolutionary leadership lab that we will support agile business owners, the strategic project leaders, strategic program leaders, okay, to execute their programs and not only monitoring them with OKRs, but to give support for the direction, for the how we plan in an agile way, fractionating the problem, and by the end, strategic business reviews, annually, quarterly, and monthly. That's the point. So what you can see that we understand right now is that business agility, if we follow the model of Agile Business Consortium, business agility is a management and leadership model to manage the strategy from concept to delivery and execution in terms of ambidextrous organization and putting the focus on the whole ecosystem. That's the most important thing that we bring to business owners, to agile business owners to understand. We start with their understanding about how can we move from the actual state to the future state. We have first change our mindsets, okay? The framework for agile business ownership has three main components: foundations, essentials, and tools. Foundations are some concepts, some approaches that we know that it's necessary to be known by these business owners, these agile business owners, these evolutionary leaders. New digital economy, it's not only about agile methods, agile stuff. We need to understand the context of a new digital economy. How can we explore the abundance? How can we explore the exponentiality of this context, of this digital world for business? So we start with exponential thinking. After that, we bring the agile thinking to solve management problems in this situation with the help of lean thinking. We know that most of agilists drink in the fountain of lean thinking. So this lean thinking approach, it's very important to develop in leaders and managers. By the end, business agility. Not only one perspective of business agility. We have seen the perspective of Business Agility Institute, Scaled Agile Framework, Project Management Institute. There is a Business Agility manifesto. If you look for in the internet, you will find it. We developed this approach of business agility based on the Agile Business Consortium approach. So I can tell you who has the right answer for business agility. In my opinion, it's none of them. We don't have the right answer for business agility. There are different approaches for business evolution. I will show you the concept of business agility that we have and how we solve it with Agile Business Ownership. But let's study, let's take the learnings let's take the learnings from these very powerful organizations to develop our own business agility model to our organization. I don't believe in only one method or framework to all organizations. So the essentials: evolutionary thinking, evolutionary practices, and evolutionary competencies. What I'm bringing to you today is the evolutionary management model that I just showed to you, and the evolutionary leadership, that is the focus of our self-assessment tool, and why we developed it. When we start developing these practices, implementing this practice in an organization, we need to change the mindset of the leaders, the owners, the business owners. So we started with that concept of evolutionary leadership lab. And it's very powerful, very interesting, because when we talk about lab, we are talking about running experiments with the strategic programs. So this leadership lab is a way to develop executive managers, executive leaders by running the strategy. So it's very interesting because people, what's the most time I listen top managers talking about is that we have a great strategy. We paid millions for that strategy with a big consultancy company. So right now we have a problem. We don't know how to execute, or not don't know how to execute. We don't have capacity and capabilities to execute the strategy. So if you put your business agility mindset in terms of strategy, discovery, and delivery, it's a great point that we can get better results for your company. For example, accelerating business growth in a sustainable way, okay? And evolutionary competencies necessary to run the management model: exponential strategy, lean portfolio, agile governance, and ambidextrous execution. It's not easy to run that, but we have to start by some point. The self-assessment in evolutionary leadership talks about this, talks about relationship building, the first domain of our evolutionary leadership model. I will talk about it. Business awareness, business evolution, and operational excellence. That's the model that is documented in this book, Evolutionary Leadership, Essential Guide to Best Practices. The evolutionary leadership model has 4 dimensions: connected leadership with this relationship building. What we used to talk about in terms of practices that we want to see in leaders? Customer feedback. They make decisions considering customer feedback. They make decisions and analyze and plan and decide. Most of the time are decisions with the considering the stakeholder perception. We work with the concept of strategic alliances. Why? Because we have the whole ecosystem to explore. And I used to see managers, program managers, or product managers only working with the vision of its mission, its his product or her product, business unit, whatever. People don't see the whole, don't have systemic view. So that's the point of strategic alliances. And if you understand 1, 2, 3, 4 here, customer feedback, stakeholder perception, and strategic alliances, we are talking about the outside of organization. But we can consider strategic alliances also inside the organization. But the main point here is that get out of the building or get out your office and start talking with people. start talking with other managers, other leaders. That's the main point. And after that, connected leadership with relationship building, we bring 3 roles here because of the leadership lab. The sponsor of the program, the business initiative. So it's very important to be aligned with the sponsor. I talked before about strategic business reviews. That's very important because when we see some program manager and agile business owner role with the agile business owner role presenting the evolution of his or her program during the period of a month or a quarter, and we leave the sponsor complaining about the results and that the program is not working well, it's not the time. It's not the time to complain about the program if you are the sponsor of the program during the business review with the strategic management committee. You have to help this manager, this leader to be better, to get better results. So if you show this behavior in a strategic business review, we used to ask for this sponsor after the meeting for a meeting to give a feedback to him or her, because it's not good to do that, because they are showing disalignment, isn't it? So engagement with coaches, different kind of coaches. I'm not talking about agile coaches. For example, HRBPs, in my opinion, are HR coaches, business coaches. So when we talk about business ownership and agile business ownership, I used to talk about agile business coaches. So you can be an expert of a specific area of knowledge and be coaching that area for that program, for the program manager, the business owner. Engagement with mentors. Who are the mentors here? It can be some senior managers, executives with experience in managing programs, business. But the main mentors that we want to put here are other directors that you will find in the company, because we have to develop this culture of collaboration, and not only collaboration that we love each other, collaboration in terms of I need to help a strategic program to succeed. That's the point related to this connected leadership in terms of mentors. I will not explain all of them, but you can see conscious leadership, business awareness, systemic vision, value creation, outcome orientation, need for evolution, strategic thinking, sense of urgency. Coherent leadership that's related with growth mindset is about visionary thinking, pragmatic thinking, critical thinking, data-driven approach, capability development, and risk mitigation. And by the end, consistent leadership that's related to operational excellence. And you will find accountability for business, commitment to the mission, the program mission, accountability for results, evolutionary execution, operational ambidexterity, continuous improvement, and continuous learning. You see that I'm proposing here 25 practices that are not related to soft skills. In my opinion, they are hard skills. So your evolutionary leadership model has no soft skills. Yes, it has no soft skills. Why? There are many other models focusing on soft skills, and they are important. You should develop yourself based on that models. But what we are talking about are the hard skills that are necessary to develop the competencies for developing business agility. That's the point. Okay. Just for you take a look, that's the book. Okay. And you will find for each practice, best practice of connected leadership, you'll find customer feedback. I make my decisions based on the feedback from the company's customers. A hint. That's one of the questions that we'll find in the self-assessment tool. And you will decide if it's true, if you strongly agree or not, but it's not agreement. We decided to work with, okay, every day I do this, or I never do this. For example, I make my decisions based on the value perceived by stakeholders, all stakeholders. It's necessary. It can be to avoid risks. So you will find these 25 practices here, okay? Before I continue with the origins of the model, do you have any question that you can write in the chat? Okay, I'm looking at the chat. If you want to contribute with some questions. Hi, Amra.
Hi, Luiz. Also, I just wanted to add that if someone wants to speak, they can just raise their hand and I can allow them to speak.
Great. So can join with camera and
That's
mic.
right.
Okay, great. So I would like to continue saying what? I hope you understood the foundations of this evolutionary leadership model and why we decide to develop it to help us implementing business agility in organizations. But I would like to show you some foundations that I think that probably you know the concept, but it will be new. The relationship that I will do with the models and the mindsets, and we will understand why we are talking every time about evolutionary organizations, evolutionary management model, evolutionary leadership model. So let's start. First of all, Siddhartha Gautama. Probably you have heard about Buddha, isn't it? The first human being that understood the nature of life is impermanence. And he also understood that we suffer from our attachment to permanence. 2,500 years ago, he understood that. And right now, I've seen most of leaders, managers, experts not understanding this. Why I say that? Because impermanence, as a natural characteristic of the world, contributes to volatility, since constant change can generate uncertainty and instability. Do you agree with that? Volatility, with its rapid and unpredictable change, contributes directly to uncertainty, making forecasting and planning difficult in various contexts. What do you think? Let's continue, and we'll keep thinking about it. Uncertainty, by challenging our need for control and security, can be a significant source of suffering, especially when it's not accompanied by adaptation or resilience strategies. Uncertainty contributes to increased complexity as it introduces unpredictable elements that make systems more difficult to understand, manage, and predict. Isn't it? I agree with that. I believe that. And take a look. Complexity amplifies suffering by creating scenarios that are more difficult to understand and manage, intensifying the sense of uncertainty and emotional overload. The digital world amplifies complexity by introducing advanced technologies, abundant information, and instantaneous interactions, which are often difficult to manage. This complexity can increase suffering by generating mental overload, anxiety, and difficulty adapting. Okay, I'm arriving at the end of the old VUCA concept that people used to say that doesn't exist anymore. We are living in another era. Take a look of what I'm explaining. The complexity of digital world intensifies ambiguity in human interactions by creating contexts with multiple interpretations, by information overload and difficulty in communicating clearly. Ambiguity by situations, by making situations even more difficult to interpret and act upon with confidence, amplifies human suffering, ending a cycle where volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity itself feed off each other in the VUCA world. Finally, I showed you attachment. Finally, it can be said that attachment to our own vision of the truth not only feeds ambiguity in relationships, but it's also one of the main causes of suffering in the business world by limiting the ability to adapt and collaborate in an already challenging environment. Okay, with that, I close this first part of my demotivation now. Talk about evolutionary leadership. Now, jokes aside, while many try to convince you that the world has become bunny, I say that it's you have become fragile and anxious because you don't understand how to lead in an increasingly VUCA digital world, full of challenges, but also full of opportunities. It's past time for business leaders and managers to learn about and apply the antidotes to the challenge of the VUCA world, promoting concrete and effective actions with their organizations. This is part of a text that I wrote, but in Portuguese. Now I translated to present to you. Take a look of these VUCA leaders' antidotes. I've seen that few leaders and managers know this work from 90s. And the VUCA concept is from 80s, isn't it? If you know that. So that's the point. Volatility. We fight volatility with vision, but we will not find the vision. The problem is that the world can change every time. We can change everything, but what we need to understand is where we want to go, where we need to be, is our vision of the future. And in front of uncertainty, we need to understand what is understandable, isn't it? But how can we understand better? Making questions. Do you agree with me that vision and understanding by making questions are two styles of leadership: visionary leadership and coaching leadership? So this is my first interpretation of these antidotes to VUCA. Vision and understanding. We need visionary and coach leaders. And here, at least here in Brazil, some research showed us that visionary leaders and coaching leaders are few compared to model leaders, isn't it? Command control leaders. We need more visionary and coaching leaders to run this kind of leadership, to apply the VUCA's antidotes. And for complexity and ambiguity, we have clarity in terms of processes, in terms of roles, in terms of interrelationships, in terms of systemic vision. We are talking about governance. We're talking about organizational architecture, business architecture. So clarity for me is related to management, and agility also with management in this context. I know that we have leadership styles more related to agile thinking, but I'm putting here agility in terms of management. Why? Because in 1992, 10 years before the Agile Manifesto be published, Rick Dove wrote an article saying being agile means being proficient in change and allows an organization to do what it wants whenever it needs to. In simple terms, agility is the characteristic that allows an organization to thrive in an environment of constant and unpredictable change. VUCA. So, do you agree with me that business agility started in the 90s? It's very interesting. When I found this article and read it and started studying this stuff, this approach, I understood that business agility is not the third wave of Agile. The first wave is operational agility, more related to Agile teams. The second wave related to Agile at scale, and after that, business agility. No, what I've understood is that business agility is from the 90s. It's from this kind of needs in our organizations. Okay? I'm reading your questions and answers. I will try to finish in more minutes and we can discuss with that. Okay? Thank you to submit, and you can keep submitting. So, we have been living for decades in the age of business Darwinism. It's not the strongest company. Darwin didn't say that. Species, isn't it? But it's not the strongest company that survives, not the smartest, but the one that adapts best to change. The one that adapts best to change. But few leaders are prepared to deal with it effectively. So, I asked for ChatGPT to create an image illustrating this preparation for the era of business Darwinism, and that's the result. Round table, but most of guys with ties, and a very conservative environment, very technological, but conservative environment. So that's what I've seen about artificial intelligence. People are trying to use a powerful tool, enabling research, to solve problems from the 20th century. Efficiency, to scale, that is very important, but productivity, only productivity. Okay, it's very nice for productivity, but we have to understand new different business models, new different ways to think about strategy and business development. That's the point. that I bring to you. So to conclude this presentation, I brought to you here, I bring to you here some concepts and models to understand what we've been doing with this evolutionary leadership model. First of all, our definition of business agility, not relating it with software development, technological teams, or art that we see business owners related to agile release train. No, no. Business agility is an integrated set of organizational capabilities that promotes the continuous evolution and sustainable growth of the business, generating a positive impact for all stakeholders. What are the main organizational capabilities that most of business agility models talk about? Respond quickly to the needs of customers and other stakeholders, guaranteeing continuous and relevant value. Adapt quickly to the changes and trends of an increasingly VUCA and digital world while maintaining resilience and competitiveness. Accelerating growth through innovation, creating new trends and offering products and services that anticipate market demands. Think about it. I've heard many guys, many people saying, okay, business agility is how we adapt to the trends and change of the market. Guys, if you are only adapting to the trends and change of the market, we are not the leader. We are not the first one. You are the second or worse. Isn't it? Because you need to adapt very quickly to these trends and change. But this is the second. You need to innovate. You need to be the reference for other companies run behind you. That's the point that I used to see some kind of ambidextrous management here, because it is related to sustain the business and grow the business. So run the business. And 2 and 3 is related to change the business. Okay? 4, attracting, developing, and engaging talent aligned with the organization's transformative purpose, strengthening its culture and capacity for evolution, and implementing organizational transformations in a sustainable way. If you understand these 5 huge business capabilities, you will develop business agility to the right side. That's my opinion. And how can we make business agility a reality? With visionary leaders, okay, who inspire change in favor of a greater transformative purpose and the generation of value for all stakeholders, and change agents, coach leaders, who develop new organizational capabilities that enable sustainable business growth. Remember the first part of VUCA antidotes. This article from 2019, published in a McKinsey blog, brings to us these new roles of leaders in 21st century organizations. There are tons of papers talking about the new roles, the new leadership styles. All of them are good stuff. I like to study all of them. It's very interesting. But this work, particularly saying, brought to me an interesting view: visionary role, coach role, architect, and catalyst. Vision, clarity, understand, and agility. They don't talk about the VUCA antidotes, but they are promoting being a leader, running the antidotes. So our evolutionary management model starts from VUCA, antidotes, and after that, the leadership roles: visionary, coach, architect, and catalyst. And we plug this evolutionary leadership model for these 2 styles of roles of leadership, and evolutionary management for this architect, and the role of catalyst that needs to run, to accelerate transformation, to accelerate business evolution. So they are the, how can I say, the core competencies of our Agile Business Ownership model. That, bringing back, is this that I showed you before. And at this webinar, I'm talking about the practices of evolutionary management and leadership. And I just mentioned the evolutionary competencies. But I would like to finish with some concept, the final concepts, that is the role of business owner for us is the strategic leader who takes responsibility for organizational evolution, generating positive impact for all stakeholders and promoting a sustainable growth. Okay, the evolutionary values that we promote are related with, first of all, a transformative purpose at the head of our strategy, our evolutionary strategy. Okay, leverage results. Why leverage? Because we are thinking in terms of exponential growth, digital economy. So leverage results is like this, and I'm talking about in terms of tangible value in financial perspective, customer perspective, market perspective, partners, in terms of society, and so on. The whole ecosystem. Dynamic capabilities that we need to develop. And enabling resources. What we are still listening and seeing the Agile community talking a lot is about products and teams, of course. But being talking only about products, we are only talking about enabling research. We need to develop product managers. It can be product owners, but business managers, business owners, product managers, to understand capabilities, results, and purpose, and the relation, the cause-effect relationship between them. Okay, our principles are related to the evolution of business, but start with business success is the main objective of leadership, business leadership, which must pursue it relentlessly, ensuring prosperity and perpetuity for all stakeholders. And business evolution is the key to guaranteeing success in a sustainable way, requiring the organization to continually evolve in order to adapt and grow. Responsibility for the organization, I can say business ownership in this term, is the driving force behind this evolution, because every organization transformation depends on the active commitment of the leadership to drive and achieve progress. And by the end, business leadership must be competent to catalyze this evolution, guaranteeing constant adaptation and thus ensuring the success of the business. The way we see the business, the purpose of our business, the way we think in terms of how we evolve the organization, the evolutionary management model here, our role and mission to run this evolution in terms of business ownership, and this business leadership is the competencies, mainly the evolutionary leadership model. I've showed you this model. This is another view of the evolutionary leadership model that I showed you in a tree. So this is a graphic view, and the evolutionary competencies that I told you: evolutionary leadership, exponential strategy, and their relationship with the Disney model that I talked to you in the beginning of the talk. The dreamer, realist, critical, and we put an executor, evolutionary execution with ambidexterity. I invite you to download to your Kindle device this evolutionary leadership. It's a 50 pages, an ebook. It's very simple to read, but it's only to present the concepts and structure of the model. Okay, and this is the last thing that I will show you. If you perceive, our evolutionary competencies has these icons, and these icons is related to the 5 elements of the universe: fire, air, water, earth, and ether. People don't use ether anymore, but ether. Take a look of that. Evolutionary leadership is fire, passion, purpose, transformation. Exponential strategy is the air, combustion, inspiration, direction. Lean portfolio is water, energy, flow, adaptation. And agile governance, earth, base, reference, structure. And our ambidextrous execution or evolutionary execution is the ether, where everything happens. You can do magic with this approach of business agility because you don't need huge structures, tons of roles and processes and things to start moving ahead your organization. Okay? If I'm not connected with you, please find me in LinkedIn and connect with me.